yo te voy a decir cuándo. No, salte, regresate.
En audio, ¿verdad? De Scope. Hola, ¿qué tal a todos? ¿Cómo están? Bueno, parece ser que, como no sabía que iba a jugar, el Tutux me dijo, yo te voy a recomendar un juego, pero bien chido. Y yo la neta le dije que no. Le dije, ponme Sonic y ahora estoy aquí jugando un juego que no sé de qué va a tratar. Entonces, aquí dice opciones. Ya le doy clic aquí. ¿Y qué pedo? Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver qué onda. Dice audio, video, teclado, ratón, extras. Audio. Tras. Entonces, ¿dónde le doy? Exacto, ahí le doy un clic en la pantalla y ya. ¿Ya ves lo que estoy haciendo? Comenzar partida. La partida como la de ella, ¿no? De Stanley Parable. ¿What?
La parábola de Stanley.
¿La parábola de Stanley? Yo no sé inglés, amigo. Perdón, teacher. Le mentí. I don't understand.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Oh, yo soy Stanley.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Oye, sí.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on
Oh,
the
yo quiero un trabajo así.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came.
Pues sí, ¿no?
As though he had been made exactly for this.
Es como lo que mi hermano se dedica, ¿no? Administración.
Stanley was happy.
Ah, perdóname, vato. Stanley
And then one day, something
era
very
feliz.
peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.
¿Qué
Something
cambió
he would
Stanley?
never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order
¿Pero
had
qué?
arrived on the monitor for him to follow.
Una orden de
No
pizza.
one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the
Sí, ¿no?
longest
¿Que no
time.
se iba a su casa o qué?
But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
A ver. ¿Qué? No. A ver.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me.
Pero no
In
puedo ver
here
el
I
chat.
can be happy forever.
Ah, te creas.
I will be
Sí.
happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the
Un
answers
saludo
would come.
para Little
Eventually,
Blue.
someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
No sé qué está pasando, pero... Yo creo que ya está abierta, tonto. ¿Cómo abro?
Tienes que ver siempre lo que dice el narrador.
La neta no escuché nada. Ya dime qué dice el narrador, ¿no?
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Ok. Nunca había visto la oficina tan iluminada. Oye, sí es cierto, no manches. ¿Por qué las ven? Unas copias, ¿no? Vamos a ver. ¿Pero qué? No hay nada aquí. Está solo. Siempre sí hay cosas secretas. Un cuadro. Voy a apreciarlo todo el rato. Bueno, no, yo creo que no. No se abre. 424. Vamos a ver. ¿Qué? Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver para dónde vamos. Porque todo está cerrado.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, a la puerta izquierda, dijo este vato. Yo le voy a creer. ¿Por qué? ¿Qué hubiera pasado si hubiera entrado a la puerta derecha? ¿Alguien de ustedes ya ha jugado este juego? Aquí me están troleando estos vatos. Mira, yo la neta creo que me voy a asustar. Este vato ya se está riendo de mí.
Yet
Yeah.
there was not a single person here either.
¿A poco?
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Ok, la oficina del director. Oh, mira, how to solve. Ah, pues. Oye, esta presentación está más chida que la que yo hice en mi tesis, ¿no? Así creo. No puedo creer que se me haya ido la luz en mi tesis. Voy a.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got
Oh,
back
pues
on
ya
track.
está bien, lo siento, discúlpame. Yo quiero ver qué hay ahí. Ok. ¿Dónde está la oficina? En
Coming
el
to a
piso de arriba.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ojalá yo tuviera alguien que me hablara así para hacer lo que tengo que hacer bien, ¿no? Así mi vida sería más fácil. Ajá, ya entré aquí ahora. Ok. Ya estoy en la oficina, ¿no? Debe ser esta.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked,
Okay.
unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
28... ¿Qué? Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
2845. Vamos a ver cualquier.
2845.
Sí, ya te escuché. 2, 8, 4, 5.
Yet
Ahí
incredibly,
está.
by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by
Oye,
sheer
sí.
luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Oye, no manches, que... Ojalá, o sea, así me dijeran las respuestas en la escuela, ¿no? No manches, eso está bien perrón. ¿Por qué hay un pasaje secreto en la oficina? Ya me está, en serio, me está dando un montón de miedo y esto. Esto es algo que nunca deben hacer. O sea, si ven un lugar, un pasadizo secreto, nunca se metan, ¿no? O sea, Stanley no tiene de otra. El narrador lo obligó. ¿Qué hubiera pasado si me hubiera metido a la
Descending
puerta
deeper into the
derecha?
building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job.
Tiene
Why
razón.
did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
A ver, ya dinos pues si quieres, ¿no? Espérame, 5 segundos. Necesito estar hidratado para asustarme. Este tipo de juegos,
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
pero yo no leo en inglés, ¿no? Entonces ahí dice Mint Control Facility, ¿no? Lo que dijo. Escape. ¿En serio? Ahí dice Escape. Y puedo. No. Esto es una broma, me están timando. Yo voy a seguir lo que dice el narrador. El narrador es quien manda, ¿no? Tal vez hubiera.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Okay.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ok. Yo no quiero averiguarlo. ¿Qué tal si Stanley quiere ir a su casa? ¿Para qué entró aquí? ¿Qué tal si es domingo y los domingos no se trabaja? Y ya está cometiendo aquí un acto ilegal, está entrando en propiedad privada, no puede estar aquí, no debería estar aquí. ¿Y qué va a decir? Un narrador me dijo que baje.
Their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Que... Oye, la neta está bien chido esto. Mírate, estar aquí vigilando, ¿no? Oye, pero ¿y ahí qué hay? Vamos a seguir. No, mira, puros números. Que presione el botón, dice, ¿no? Narrador, dime qué hago.
Mind control facility. It was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
¿Y por qué lo ponían a hacer números? Si no te quieres spoilear, estás a tiempo. Espolear, dice ahí. Vamos a ver. ¿Cómo se llama el juego? Pues no tengo ni idea. En serio, no sé cómo se llama. A ver, ¿cómo se llama tu
He
tuts?
refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was
Never.
unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
¿Cómo piensa tanto Stanley en eso? Yo estaría bien asustado ya. Me podrían arrestar por
Here
estar
was the
aquí, ¿no?
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Destrucción. Eso es lo mejor que puede haber. Ahora, ¿cómo vamos a destruir este sitio? Vamos a ver qué hay por aquí. Yo quiero ver la destrucción, pues, ¿no? ¿Dónde tengo que ir? ¿Para abajo? Sí. No. Ok. Entonces ahí hay unas escaleras. ¿Cuál botón? ¿Este? ¿Cuál botón? O sea, ahí había un botón, pero la apreté y no pasó nada. Mira. Estoy haciendo ahí. ¿Qué? Estoy exactamente parado en el botón. Es en serio, mira. ¿O hay otro botón? A ver. Tengo que checar todo. 1, 2. Vamos a subir mágicamente a la escalera, ya que nuestro compañero Pedro, le vamos a llamar, no nos ha dicho qué hay que hacer. 4. Oye, pues toqué el 1, el 2 y me faltó el 3. Tú. Pero que estoy todo torombolo. A ver, otra vez. Y 1. Y 2. Y... ¿dónde estará el 3? Ya súplenme la respuesta, ya lo vi. No, ¿qué? ¿Es el 5 y el 3? Uno, 2, 4. ¿Dónde está el 3?
Híjole, chavo, yo no puedo ayudarte.
Mamá, ¿alguien ve el 3? Yo veo un 3, pero ese está en mi CIA, ¿no? Ah, ya. Ahí está. 3. ¿Qué sigue del 3? Sí, se acuerdan, ¿no? De... ¿quién era el que contaba los números de los mopeds? No, de este vato, no me acuerdo cómo se llama. Dora, pero en inglés, ¿no? Es 4. No entiendo ni un carajo. Pero ya voy en el 5. Y ya. Ahora que presiono el 5, ¿qué va a pasar? Ustedes saben. Lo averiguaremos en el próximo capítulo de Infieles. Ah, sí, creo. 5, ya apreté el 5. ¿A poco también hay 6? No me digas eso. O voy bien. Pues sí, ¿no? O sea, estoy entrando, ya entré a la puerta del 6. Del 6, del... ¿Qué pasa si hubiera...
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Creo que debí de haber conseguido una linterna, ¿no?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
¿Sí, no? Ya se acabó, ¿no? Ok.
Yes. He had won.
¿Gané?
He had
¿Qué
defeated the
gané?
machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness.
Buscaba la
Perhaps his
felicidad.
goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin,
Oye,
the
sí.
feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
¿Soy feliz? Ahora, ¿qué va a pasar? Siento que va a pasar algo malo. O sigue cargando. Esto se va a poner bueno. ¿Qué? ¿Qué? Ya entendí lo que... Ya.
All his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
No puedo creerlo. Ok.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Sí, claro.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Creo que sí, seguí las instrucciones y no llegué a ningún lugar, entonces yo creo que tengo que hacer lo contrario. Es como cuando ya estaba trabajando, ¿no? Haz esto. No, pues no.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself.
Tienes razón.
I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Aquí, creo que...
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life.
Ajá, a ver.
She's been waiting.
¿Dónde me estás esperando? Mira, no me esperes, mejor te mando Uber, ¿no? Ay, güey.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out.
No, pues, ¿qué hice?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Ay, güey.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you?
¿Qué?
I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
A ver, yo ya me estoy sacando de onda bien duro. Hola, cariño.
This is a
¿Te
very
ves?
sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Ajá.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Yo no entiendo. No quiero presionar Z.
But
Pero
in
voy
his
a
mind,
presionar Z.
in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures.
Si
From
no,
behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands.
ya déjame
It was
salir, ¿no?
wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Ok. Yo no quiero mirar TV. Bueno, pues, vamos a ver TV.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At
Okay.
last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful
¿Quién
to
habrá
behold.
hecho esto? Este juego está medio... Yo no quiero cenar.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Ok. Yo no quiero la historia del niño. Ya Yo lo que quiero es salir de aquí. A ver, no voy a presionar el 9. Lo presionaré.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Yo no quiero decirle a la esposa de Stanley que la amo. A ver. Debe haber algo que me saque.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
No puede ser. Aquí. Vamos a ver.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Es una metáfora, güey.
Ay. No entiendo qué está pasando.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Yo ya quiero salir de aquí.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose.
Pero...
I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And and I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
No puede ser. No puede ser. Ah.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room,
Sí,
and Stanley
claro.
knew it perfectly well.
Te voy a
Perhaps
hacer
he wanted to
mucho
stop
caso.
by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ok. Ah, te creas, cachorro. Vamos otra vez aquí.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ok. Yo creo que voy a seguir aquí
Look,
mismo.
Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Dice que tome el teléfono, yo no quiero tomar el teléfono. Voy a esperar a ver qué sucede. Que no. No, ¿qué? Ay, no.
Agárrate.
Me equivoqué de botón.
Sí, te va a tocar repetir otra vez todo.
Ay,
Oh, Stanley,
no.
is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife?
A ver.
Who'd want to commit their life to you?
Yo creo
I'm trying to
que...
make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Okay.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
Nada, están ahí en tu... Vamos a ver.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named
Están ahí en
Stanley.
tu sillón, ¿no? A ver si te traigo acá un... Traigo 2 pares de llaves, vato. Ahí está. Traigo las llaves, pero no de su corazón. Buenos días, empleado. Ok.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him.
Ya me
Every
dijiste
button he
eso.
pushes is a reminder
Ya,
of the inconsequential
ya.
nature of his existence.
Ya. Ay, no puede ser. Estoy bien preocupado.
¿Ya lo repetiste todo?
No, pues otra vez me va a tocar volver a... Dice que sigue presionando botones, pero si no los presiono no voy a poder salir de aquí hasta que muera. Bueno, les voy a contar un cuento. Changos, dice que presione el O, pero ¿para qué lo presiono? Yo creo que voy a ver si hay una cerveza en el refrigerador. Amor, ¿cómo estás? Te noto muy pálida, ¿te cortaste el cabello? Oye, pero qué bonitos ojos. Sí. Estás muy delgada, creo que deberías comer algo. ¿No? Oye, entonces voy a ver el chat. ¿Qué me dicen, chat? ¿Hay algo nuevo? ¿O solo hay 2 views? Sí, yo creo que ya también se preocuparon. Ya déjame salir, ¿no? O sea... Dice que presione este botón, pero no lo presiono y no pasa nada. Vamos a ver. La tele. No. Oye, compa, ya, Pues sí, no, yo creo que...
¿Ya te rindes?
No. Que me voy a andar rindiendo, vato. Vamos a ver. Yo no voy a presionar ningún botón. ¿Cómo la ves? Ni me voy a mover. ¿O sí? A ver. Tal vez si no estuviera grabando no me pondría tan nervioso. Pero bueno. ¿Qué me cuentan? ¿Cómo les va? ¿Qué me dicen de ustedes? ¿Tienen algún chistecillo ahí que me puedan contar? A ver, pues Eric, dime algo, tú, narrador. Yo pues me quedo aquí. Si no, acabo no estoy grabando, ¿no? Yo no quiero presionar el O. Bueno, entonces, ¿qué hago? A ver.
Ahí quédate nomás, ahí te pasa.
Pues no pasa nada, ¿no? O sea... Les voy a contar una historia. Presiónalo como tu asesora, tío. ¡Oh! Eso fue un golpe duro. Un saludo a mi asesor. Debería de estar leyendo un poco, ¿no? Pero estoy aquí haciendo esto. ¿Por qué no sé? Tengo que ser muy observador, ¿no? Aquí a ver qué puedo... No está pasando nada, ya me desesperé, vatos. A ver... No, pues sí, este vato se está divirtiendo, yo no sé qué hacer. Dice, por favor, presione o cero, no sé. Y yo no quiero presionarlo y este vato no dice nada, no hace nada. Yo no lo voy a presionar, ¿ok? ¿Cuánto tiempo tiene que pasar para que no presione? Vamos, es como cuando trabajaba, me decían, haz esto, y yo sí, ahorita lo hago. Y yo creo que con esa lógica es como voy a sobrevivir a sus besos. Ya solo somos... Tututi me dijo, juega bien. Y yo creo que no lo estoy haciendo. Estoy bien preocupadillo. Yo siento que este vato nomás. Y ya me aburrí de mi esposa, no me dice nada. No me ve ni me escucha. Esposa, dime algo, bebé.
Ya presiona el maldito botón.
Oye. Ajá, ¿ahora qué? Ya lo presioné, ¿ahora qué tienes que decir, vato? A ver.
Mira, voy a esa parte ya la viste, si quieres darle escape y salte y vuelve a iniciar el juego.
Yo creo que sí, a ver.
Nunca más otras decisiones.
Volver a comenzar. Voy a reiniciar esa parte porque ahí la regué rotundamente. Entonces me voy.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
Sigo.
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Hay una puerta por la que puedes escapar. El elevador no tenía nada que te pudiera decaer.
Vamos a ver.
When Stanley came
Es
to
la
a set of two
puerta
open doors,
derecha.
this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and
Sí,
Stanley knew it
joven.
perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee
Vamos, yo
lounge
le hago
first,
caso,
just to
sí.
admire it.
Tiene razón. Yo quiero ver este
The
cuarto.
lounge was
Ese
sublime,
cuarto está muy
a work
bonito.
of art. What was it about this room that
Quiero
called so deeply
tomarme
and
una
so
bebida
personally
así.
to Stanley? Its grace, its subtle charm. No. Stanley knew it was something deeper. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ok, dentro a la izquierda. Ah, te creas, cachorro.
Stanley was
Vamos a
so
ver.
bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Vamos a ver qué hay acá. Aquí.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not sure. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Oye, tenía que intentarlo.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was
Sí.
not the correct way to the meeting room. And
Ahora
Stanley knew
vamos
it
a
perfectly
tomar
well.
otra decisión.
Perhaps he
Vamos a
wanted to
ver
stop by the
qué
employee
hay.
lounge first, just to admire it.
Porque ya estoy desesperado.
Standing now in this
Sí, ya me
incredible room,
dijiste esto.
Stanley for the
Ya te
first, but
escuché.
eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open
Yo
door on
quiero
his
continuar
left.
con los negocios, pero voy a ir por la puerta derecho, amigo. A ver. Estoy
Stanley was
aquí.
so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
A ver. ¿Podría saltar en algún lugar donde están las cajas?
No, hay un pasillo así de metal que se ve desde lejos, se ve.
Ujú,
¿Lo ves?
ujú.
Con unas barandillas. Hay un momento en el que en el elevador llegas a esa parte, justo arriba de esa parte. ¿Ya viste?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side.
Ajá.
Give me a chance.
Entonces, ¿de qué lado voy? Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver a dónde vamos ahora.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Stanley caminó por la puerta roja. No sé si es una trampa.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Vamos a ver.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
Ah, no puede ser. Yo lo sabía. Yo lo sabía. Dije, no, tiene que haber otro camino. Y que el camino es nuestro Señor Moy. Ah, no puede ser. Okay.
You see, there's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me.
Sí, ¿no? Algo así, algo acá más chidillo.
Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some
A
feedback.
ver, échale, vato.
There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Pero, ¿a dónde voy? Izquierda, yo voy a entrar por esta. Ah.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
A ver, dice que de experiencia. Yo no quiero darte mi experiencia, vato. Vamos a ver. ¿Qué hago aquí? Please read your experience.
Oh, of course. A 3. Really? Maybe next time we can get you to form an actual opinion, you know? Any level of critical thinking or engagement with your surroundings? Does that sound good? Think we can do that? Yes? Wonderful. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
A ver. No quiero entrar por la puerta esa. No puedo creerlo.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
¿Qué? Está bien.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtest. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
A ver, pues te voy a hacer caso.
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me.
A ver, pues,
I'm not even
enséñame.
going to try. I'm out. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game, just to ease the pain? Let's see. What do we have here?
No, que ya habías
Yes,
acabado,
this seems
vato.
like
Yo
it'll
ya me
work.
quiero
Let's
ir
give
a
it a
dormir.
shot. Well, Stanley, is this any better?
La
At
verdad,
last, the
sí.
one thing you've always desired.
Está mucho
A
mejor.
game I had absolutely nothing to do with. But is it enough?
Yo creo que
Tell me
no.
that, Stanley.
Necesito un pico y una
Will
pala.
it ever be enough? Well, I'll say this. I'm done making things for you. From now on, I will only create to fulfill a greater artistic purpose.
A
Watch
ver,
this,
quiero...
Stanley. I'm going to build a house.
No mames.
This will go here. No,
Shit.
here. And then...
A ver, pues, vato.
Let's see, what does it need? Yes, of course. And just to finish it all off, yes, it's complete. I made this, Stanley. Look at it. Gaze upon my work of art and feel ashamed at your own
insuficiencia.
inadequacy.
Sí, claro.
But you've only seen it from the outside. You've only gotten half the experience. Please, step inside and make yourself comfortable.
Yo no quiero ir para allá, pero no hay otra opción. A ver. ¿En serio quieres que pase? No hay otro...
Isn't it grand? Isn't it perfect? It could only be better if... Wait, that's it. We must rebuild it out of diamond.
¡A minar!
Diamond everything. Yes,
Claro
yes,
que
yes.
sí.
Come along, Stanley. We have to go mining.
A ver. How go? No, yo no quiero minar. Tengo que ir ahora a otro lugar. Ah, ya. No, es que no, yo sé que...
It looks like it's going to get a bit dark. Have you brought a light?
No, no puedo saltar, no puedo hacer nada.
No. This is far more open-ended than I had in mind. I'm looking for something more narrow and linear. Something that makes you feel utterly irrelevant. This won't do at all. 1 out of 5. Even the diamonds couldn't save this one. Okay, new game.
Yo sí quería jugar Minecraft, prefiero el Minecraft que...
Yes! I don't even know what this game is, but I love it. You, trapped in a glass box with no way out, listening to me talk. Oh, it's inspired. I couldn't have done it any better myself. What is this game even supposed to be? I can't figure it out. Okay, now I'm curious. Let's go find out what the hell this is.
Vamos a ver... Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver qué dice. No alcanzo a ver las letras. Está muy pequeño. Vamos a ver. Vamos a ver. Ya no puedo ir por la taza, ya la arrojé, ya batió. A ver, vamos a ver qué me dicen jóvenes. A ver, sí, una ayudita, a ver qué dice. Eh.
Oh, it's a puzzle. Critical thinking, Stanley. Your forte.
Vamos a ver.
Todo tronco, güey, no mames.
Güey, pues cállate.
Genius.
Cállate.
No, actually, you know what? I think that's plenty. I really don't care much to see you stumble through any more of these games, and I highly doubt you're any wiser for the experience. Which is why, rather than continue to waste my time, I'm just going to leave you here. You can pretend you've beaten the game if it makes it any richer for you, but as for me, I've had enough. So, why don't you get cozy in this room, and if you have any grand revolutionary ideas for the perfect video game, you can just sit there and let it ball up inside you for all eternity. I don't need your advice. I don't need your ratings. And I certainly don't need the validation of a man whose job is to push buttons. I think I'll just go about my business, making meaningful cultural contributions to the world. And perhaps every now and then, I'll think back to a man named Stanley who was objectively wrong in every decision he ever made. The thought won't last long. Goodbye, Stanley. Good luck with your work.
Vamos a ver. ¿Qué dice? Vámonos para acá. ¿Dónde estoy? ¿Qué pasó, vato? ¿Ya no me vas a hablar? Amigo, amigo. Ah, hay una luz aquí. Amigo, amigo. Friend, háblame. Háblame, vato. Por favor. Ya no voy a ser así. Amigo. Dime algo. Amigo. Amigo. ¿Por qué te enojaste? ¿No te divertiste cuando jugamos Minecraft?
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now.
Pues...
I wonder if he's happy with his choice. And if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon.
Ya pues, dime, ¿qué hago, no, Holmes? Ya, la pantalla se quedó en blanco. Está cargando. Pero... ¿Qué? ¿Por qué volví a iniciar?
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great. he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
¿Por qué? A ver. ¿En qué me equivoqué?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
A
this
ver,
was not
no.
the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
¿Sabes qué? Ya entendí. Ya. Yo
Stanley
creo.
felt lightheaded.
Ya sé lo
butterflies in
que
his
tengo que
stomach,
hacer.
But eager to get back to business,
Sí,
Stanley
sí,
took
sí,
the
sí.
first open door on his left.
No, ya sé lo que tengo que hacer.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't
espérate.
fired years ago.
Ya entendí. Sí, claro.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his
Vamos
death.
a ver.
Good job, Stanley.
Tengo una
Everyone
teoría.
thinks you are very powerful.
Tengo una teoría muy rara. ¿Es un teléfono? Mira, ya. Creo que ya sé qué es lo que voy a hacer. Ya entendí.
When Stanley came to a set of 2
Sí.
open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person
Sí.
here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Me he ido para acá. No sé, es que mi teoría es que tengo que ir arriba y seguir todo hasta la parte donde dice escape, y yo creo que eso va a ser el final de nuestra historia. Ajá.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming
Ya,
new age
discúlpame.
music.
Aquí.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Sí. Sí, vamos a darle. Ya no vuelvo a jugar este tipo de juegos. Bueno, sí. Y vamos a darle ahora sí.
Stanley walked
jóvenes.
straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ajá.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
A ver,
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
sí, ya vimos las teles y todo eso, ¿no?
Now the
Entonces,
monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
vamos a ver. Voy a creerte. dice que no presione
This
botones.
mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Esto, yo ahora sí creo que...
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content.
Ahora
Walking,
sí,
eating,
jóvenes.
working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Y a ver dónde estaba el 3. Aquí está el 3. Voy por el 4. Y ahora vamos por el... sí me gustó un buen la parte donde jugamos Minecraft, aunque no lo crean. Una vez tratamos de jugar Minecraft con el Tutux, pero solo jugamos... como 2 veces. Ya mi hermano se quería conectar a jugar con nosotros. Y pues no, o sea... no se logró.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he...
A ver... si no lo logro, díganle a mi mamá que ahorita llego porque ya se me hizo tarde.
And a rising chill of uncertainty.
Vamos a ver.
Was it over?
¿Se acabó?
Yes. He had won. He had
¿Gané?
defeated the
¿Qué gané?
machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Pero...
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
No. Sí, ya, o sea, ya.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
No, tengo un...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Why? ¿Por qué?
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
Okay.
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal.
¿Qué
I
pues,
am
vato?
normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
No me digas que...
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously
Dios.
crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind.
No sé si
I know
creer
what is real and what
que
isn't.
está...
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
A ver,
Then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day.
es que no...
The very
Ni
important
siquiera
people
creo que esto
whose
sea
impressions of her would
cierto.
affect her career,
Siento
and
que
by
voy a
extension,
aparecer otra
the
vez
rest
en
of her life.
la oficina
She
y...
had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Es una historia inventada, ¿verdad? Y esto va a volver a cargar y voy a estar en el mismo lugar. Sí, ya sabía. Yo creo que ya... Jóvenes, la neta, me desespero un poquillo, pero...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
Yo creo que
mean?
ya le voy a parar
Stanley
aquí,
decided to go to the
porque...
meeting room.
Porque
Perhaps
sí...
he had simply
Voy a tratar de pasármelo ahora sí, después. No puedo creerlo. Bueno, jóvenes, estuve una hora aquí, pero creo que lo lograré después, jóvenes.
Te vas a pasar al starting zone.
Yo creo que sí. Ahí nos vemos.